So welcome to using Spawn Actor to spawn. In this video we will be doing exactly what I just said, and by the end of it you'll be able to point your tank barrel, click, and then spawn these 1 by 1 meter projectiles at the end of the barrel. Pretty fun, hey? So let's pick up where we left off. What we were trying to do is to get this projectile blueprint working, and it didn't work, so we had to go to 412, and then we got an exasperation of our jitter bug, and now we're back to where we were. So the projectile blueprint, let's take a look at it. We have a projectile, a default scene route. That shouldn't have a scale of 100. If yours has got a scale of 100, set it back to 1. And then add yourself a sphere so that we can actually see this guy. So I have a projectile with a default scene route with a scale of 1 and a sphere with a scale of 1. Let's compile and save that projectile. I'm going to delete the one that's already in the scene and just try popping a new one in from the blueprint and play. And there it is. It's a 1 meter sphere, all very nice. Good. So that's going to be big enough to see. I'm going to delete the instance in the world. In the world outliner, you can see there are no projectiles there right now. I'm just going to save everything. And this is a good starting point. So what we're going to want to do is be able to instantiate that projectile from code. So how are we going to go about that? Well, let's go ahead and open up our C++ and think about it. One of the first things we're going to need is a reference to that projectile here in the C++, right? So the tank itself is going to need to know something about the projectile. So I'm going to make a U property. I'm going to make it edit anywhere. But that's pretty much the last time we're going to use edit anywhere, because there's another option called edit defaults only, but I'm just not going to go into it right now. There's a bit too much else going on in this video. So category equals setup. It's going to be about the setup of the tank. Then we're going to start just with a U class pointer. And it's going to be called projectile blueprint. Now there is an alternative to using a U-class pointer here, and let me show you. It's in the resources of your notes. If you click resource number 2, which is both in the lectures, it also should be attached to this video, then you'll get here, and you can see we can do U-class star, or we could do T subclass of. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to reference you to that in the code, and you can read that on your own time and decide which way you want to do it. I'm going to do it with a U-class star to start with because it's just simpler, and again, it avoids me introducing too many concepts in one video. So I'm going to say alternative there and just paste it in the code. Okay, fantastic. So we now have the ability to set a projectile blueprint on every single instance of the tank, actually, and we'll talk about the difference between edit anywhere and edit defaults only later. I'm having to hold myself back from talking about that now because, as I say, there's enough to think about in this video without worrying about that, but it's very much on the top of my agenda to start talking about that. It's a protection mechanism using the other one, basically. So now let's go have a look at this tank blueprint, and we should now, on the tank itself, under the setup, be able to choose the projectile blueprint. Now, this lets me choose absolutely anything, any class, you see, because we said in the code, I want a U-class star, a pointer to any U-class, and that's fine, but look, the designer can set anything, and most of these things aren't going to work. One of them, of course, is the projectile blueprint, right down here. But let's do better than that. Let's go to the other option, and you see if you choose the wrong thing, the editor crashes. So let's reopen, and now that I've shown you the reason, let's go to the other option instead of a U-class star. So let's just let the editor reopen, assess the damage from it crashing. Don't think anything drastic has gone wrong. We can fix it if it has. Let's go back into our code. Instead of this U-class star, I'm going to go and look at that alternative. Here it is, T subclass of, and then the class would be a projectile, and then we'd give it a name. Okay, so let's go use that. T subclass of, like that. Generic format, a projectile. Pinning down the exact class. Remember that the projectile blueprint is based upon the projectile.h class, or the a projectile class. And then it doesn't need to be a pointer now because that's built into the way the T subclass of works. I can get rid of this alternative because we're using it. We need to make sure that a projectile is available. Is it? No. We don't want to hash include it for reasons talked about before. So now let's just go straight in and do a forward declaration of a projectile. And then now we should actually be able to set this. Let's try. So you'll see the difference. It'll all come together in a moment when we get to the tank blueprint and we go to the tank, the top tank, and then where it says projectile blueprint, look at the magic when we click this drop down now. You can only choose a projectile C++ class or a projectile blueprint. We want the blueprint because we want all the modifications the designer may have made on top of the C++ in this blueprint, like how this thing looks and any particle effects. Cool, so let's save everything. Run the game. And nothing happens, of course, but we actually do have now available to us in the C++ a concept of a projectile blueprint, which is one of the things you're going to need to do the spawning. The other thing you're going to need to do the spawning is the concept of a barrel. Now, we had a barrel reference that we pass straight through, if you remember, with this setter, all the way through to the tank aiming component, I believe, under set barrel reference. Yeah. But we're going to want a local barrel reference. So let's just make one of those. Under private, it's just going to be a simple, what's the class name? Tank barrel. Pointer, barrel equals null pointer. If you're not sure what it's for, make a comment. Local barrel reference for spawning projectile. It's commenting as to why you're keeping a reference here. Okay, so in the CPP under the setter, we not just pass the barrel reference down to the aiming component, but we can just say that barrel equals barrel to set, like so. So we're keeping a local reference to the barrel. If you want to, you can recompile. I would say that's over recompiling at this stage. And then what we need to do is we need to protect this pointer if there's no barrel. Then we're out of here. Otherwise, now did that compile succeed or fail? It failed. Let's just finish the code we're writing. Otherwise, spawn a projectile, I'm inside the fire method here, at the socket location on the barrel. Okay, so that's what we're going to need to do. Let's fix up the compilation errors. So I'm missing on line 50 here a semicolon. And all it is that I've got tank barrel pointer when I need U tank barrel pointer. And it understands tank barrel because we have done a forward declaration of it. Okay, over in the C++, let's go ahead and recompile. And then we'll be ready to discover the method you need to do the spawning. You can write the method and we should be spawning projectiles on the end of our barrel. While we talk about that, let's go to the barrel, see where the socket location is. I'm going to move the socket just outside the end of the barrel so we can definitely see it, and then save that tank barrel mesh. The compile is complete, so we are pretty much good to go. Now look, this is the method you need, get world. From you get world, you spawn an actor. Now that spawn actor method actually has a generic format. You can see in the chevrons here, T, it's telling me what type do you want me to act on. Well, we want you to act on a U, it's not U, is it? It's a projectile. So we can act on an A projectile, then there are several signatures. Now what I want you to do is use signature number 2 for this challenge. I want you to go and find the class of the thing that you're going to spawn. It's the projectile blueprint we just set up. And then the location and rotation only, you don't need this other parameter. And you're going to get those things by querying the socket. So you're going to go barrel, and then you're going to do get something to do with the socket, pass in an F name, and make it work. So that's your challenge. I'm not going to hold your hand all the way through. I want you to fill in the rest of that method, and if I'd have spelt it right, we are nearly good to go. So here's your challenge. Back to the slides. And spawn the projectile. Fill in the spawn actor parameters and test that it works. Go ahead, pause the video, see if you can get it spawning now. Okay, let's see if we can make this spawning stuff happen. I'm going to spread this out onto a few different lines just for clarity. So it is the projectile blueprint that we set up is the thing that we're going to spawn. Now, where are we going to spawn it? Well, we're going to go to the barrel. Then we are going to say, now hold on, does it have a concept of barrel? It's complaining about barrel. Let's see. We did a forward declaration, but no, we haven't hash included the barrel, so we better do that. Okay, so that should, when it catches up, stop it complaining about that. So we can do a barrel. And then we can say get socket location. And then we need to pass that an F name. The autocomplete is not catching up right now, but you need to do it by name. So F name in socket location. So you construct the F name like this. And then unfortunately, we're now into string referencing. Because it's a string, I want to go to the barrel, go to the socket manager, and go and actually copy the socket name. And then paste it in. Great, so that should get the socket location. The next thing is to get the socket rotation, which is almost the same with rotation. So if you did all that yourself, well done. That's really great news. I'm going to save that there. Think about whether anything else needs to be included. Are we doing anything on the projectile? We are using a projectile class here. We're using a projectile blueprint. I think we are going to need to, yes, we are going to need to include the projectile. Let's see the compilation error if we don't. Save everything as we go, just so that you see that error. So the compilation fails. What do we give us? It doesn't like tank.h. It doesn't like the declaration of a projectile. And then tank.h47. It's giving us a pretty cryptic error here, actually. But I think what's going on is that we just need to be including the projectile. So, okay, let's try recompiling. I'll just do that save all as well. And it wanted me to save the battleground. There you go, that's good. No stars, that's always good in case something crashes. Let's play the game. Ah, look at that. How fun's that? I can now spawn projectiles wherever the barrel is pointing. Very cool. Fantastic, that's great progress for this video. Let's save everything carefully, commit our work, and I'll see you soon.